This is episode 2, and we are talking principles and popularity, right? Which is a big deal in South African politics. Usually, popularity wins you the vote. It wins you the presidency in this country, as we do get to see in the United States. And of course, in the second episode, we are not flying solo. No. We are unpacking this with people who are the target, I think, for these elections, the youth. Yes. You know, those who, a lot of whom are confused, a lot of whom don't really know who to vote for, a lot of whom probably don't want to vote. Yes, they registered, but they don't want to vote because it's, what is the point? So we are joined, Abigail and myself, by Denga, as well as Gabrielle.
Yes. Welcome to the both of you. I'm so excited to be speaking to some young people. Often when I interview people and talk about the upcoming elections, they are older. And there's a lot of talk around young people. How excited you are about the upcoming elections. Are you even interested in the upcoming elections? I think a lot of older people speak on the youth's behalf quite often, so I'm so excited to have the both of you here to find out what exactly is going on in the minds of our young people. So the elections are coming up a few weeks away, right, Morena?
Yeah, it's about 3 weeks away to go, actually.
3 weeks. How are you guys feeling as young people? Are you registered to vote?
Yes. So I'm registered, and honestly, I'm quite excited. This is my first time voting as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see how. Thank you. I'm excited to get that little black print on my finger.
This is going to be the party. 2014, 2019, when I was eligible to vote, I was just like, oh, okay, ordinary.
Times have changed,
this
right?
is where you want to be.
Denga, how are you feeling?
I mean, I share different sentiments to Gabby.
Really?
I mean, I'm not too excited because, well, who do we even vote for at this point? I mean, I'm registered, but I'm still just keeping my eyes open to actually see which political party is deserving of that cast of minds on that ballot.
And this is something, Morena, that we spoke about quite extensively in episode 1, about young people perhaps wanting to vote, but asking themselves that question, who do I vote for? There's also a lot of other young people who have told me that they've just given up. They've lost faith in the government. Do you still have a little bit of faith, Denga? Or are you there?
I mean, I don't really have faith in our current government. Maybe, let me give them maybe 10 years and then we can have this conversation again, because no confidence in the South African government at this point, because I mean, so many promises have been made for the youth and none of them have actually been feasible, most of them actually.
And what are some of those promises that you were disappointed in that made you get to a point where you're just like, you know what, I actually don't even care anymore?
I mean, the hugest part as the youth that we are facing as unemployment, and actually tertiary institution is actually a huge thing for us, where, okay, a lot of young people, graduates, are actually unemployed, and also a lot of people who are in tertiary institution are actually suffering from funds. They don't have enough funding to actually complete their studies, and it's just not nice to be a youth in South Africa, because even though, let's say I just graduated from school now, I still have outstanding fees that I have to pay for, which is, yeah.
Here's something I've been interested in, Gabrielle, is a lot of youth in this country are privileged in the sense that they don't need NSFAS, right? They went to really good schools, they graduated really well, and even probably before their ceremonies, they found jobs. Yeah. And I say this because I can relate to that. You know, I got a job before I even got my certificate. Sure. So you've got a lot of that youth speaking, like, you know, Abigail was saying that you've got older people speaking for the young and influencing them in that way. But then you've also got the privileged speaking for the disenfranchised. So I want to talk to people who make it personal for themselves. What is it about the political scene in this country, you know, the state of this country, that makes you feel like this is not the best country right now for you? Like, on a personal level, what have they done wrong to you? What have they not done for you as somebody who potentially is privileged?
Yeah. So I definitely relate to what you just said, because I also got a job before I graduated. I'm actually graduating this Friday, so
nice.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the sad thing is that we have just become so disillusioned to government because of all the empty promises. There's that poor governance and a lack of accountability and also a lack of intentionality. And I think the sad thing is that corruption is just a norm now. We're just so used to it, and we even make jokes about it in terms of like load shedding, even with our ESCOM app, all the jokes on that app. So I think it's just, funny. Yeah, they are. But I think the sad part is that we're just used to it. So we're like, what's new? Like, yeah, we have all these manifestos and all these plans, but where's the practical side of that? Where's the execution behind that? So I think that's the sad part, and that's where a lot of the youth loses that interest and that hope. And there's also a lack of representation on behalf of the youth in government, where our voices are actually seen and heard and our values are kind of understood. So I think that's definitely what creates voting or voter apathy.
Democracy is 30 years young, guys. Yeah. 30 years young. You know, you have a Ghana that was given its independence in 1957. You go to Ghana today, does it look like a country that's been independent since 1957? So the ruling party would say it takes time. Yeah. You know, you had a Japan that got hit by an atom bomb, and it took them quite a while to rebuild and get better. So the government says to you, Denga, why are you in such a rush? Look at everybody else. They're in far worse positions than where we were, and we suffered under apartheid. So why are you in such a rush to see change, to see, you know, constant electricity supply when we're supplying Zimbabwe, Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland? It's not just for South Africans. We're supplying our neighboring countries. So that should speak to the progress that we've made. Why are you in such a rush?
I mean, considering the state of our economy and political landscape, I feel like everyone is in a rush to actually get to somewhere, because we cannot always wait on government to actually do something when you actually want to do something. I feel like when it comes to, it's not even an electricity thing for South Africa, because it's not the only issue that we as South Africans actually face. We don't care if South Africa is supplying electricity to other countries. If they're doing that, it means that they actually have the capabilities to actually do it, because no sane country would actually say, oh, we don't have electricity, but we're willing to give it to other people. The fact that they're actually supplying to other countries shows that they actually have enough electricity. And the reason why we're in such a rush for change is that our lives are not guaranteed on this earth. We want to explore each and everything as the youth, as an old person in South Africa, and we feel limited when we don't have enough resources, when service delivery is really bad in the country. We don't have enough time.
Denga, you make an important point in saying that you, as South African citizens, we can't wait for the government to implement. At some point, we need to act and play our part as well. Gabrielle, you spoke about the lack of young leadership that we have in the country, and that's been an ongoing issue. But you are the youth. You are the young leaders that we are looking for and looking to. Why is there such a reluctance and a hesitation for young people to step into that power positions?
I feel like, you know, there's this saying, but it's just a saying that once you, okay, I don't necessarily support it, that's why I have to put it to the table. A lot of old people believe that if you give a young person power, they just become hungry and greedy, which is not actually true.
Well, looking at the stats and how things are now, I don't know how true that is, but okay.
But I don't believe that it's necessarily true, because it's sort of like they're projecting it onto each and every young individual. We do have young individuals out there who actually want to make impactful change for our political landscape, because honestly speaking, as a 21-year-old, you cannot have you don't even relate to a person who's 60 years old and in power. We need someone within that age group who can actually represent me as a South African. And those old women and men, I just can't relate to them.
Gabriella, do you share that sentiment?
I definitely do agree. I think that, as Denga was saying, we just need that opportunity to be a part of government and to actually voice our opinions and voice our concerns, because I think there's a lack of relatability, which makes it extremely difficult. I think, yes, experience is so important, but then again, we also need fresh perspectives. We need the youth to kind of speak up for what we believe in and what we want to see, change.
So now, if you were in a position to change the Constitution, and the Constitution says, do whatever you want with it, you have the option to not have a multi-party democracy, one. You go American style, where you have, let's call it 3 parties, Democrats, Republicans, and the independents. So in our case, I'll just throw it out there, not to say that those are the people we want in power, but you have the ANC, the DA, and the guy in the middle. And they say, we won't choose the leader for you. You must choose your own leader. So there'll be a candidate for whom we vote. So you have a Cyril Ramaphosa and a John Steenhuisen. We will vote for them because they're the candidates who want to run for the presidency. These are the 2 options that you have. Choose which one you want. Do you see that working? Do you see us being in a position where we would get better governance if we decided who becomes president? Because as we've got it right now, should the ANC get majority, at the polls, your president, again, is going to be Cyril Ramaphosa. You don't have a choice because they elected him as the ANC in 2022. 2,000 to 3,000 members of the ANC decided who your next president could be. 2,000 to 3,000 members of the DA have potentially decided who your president will be. You don't have a choice. Whereas in America, they're like, you've got Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Go wild. So how we have it now, with the party choosing your leader, or how they have it in America with you choosing your leader, which do you see working?
That's an interesting one. Oh, you
I think me choosing my own leader would work, because for the longest of time, it's been the ANC practically choosing because they have the majority in the National Assembly, right? I feel like the youth or just an individual choosing who they want to actually vote for could actually work for the country, because I wouldn't just go and vote for someone because they've been in politics for the longest of time and they've been making so many promises for me and they're not doing anything. But where else, if I choose my own person, it means that I see something in that person, I resonate with that person, and I also feel I don't know, there's just this confidence within me that this person might actually be the one, rather than being given someone, like let's say for example, being given Jacob Zuma or Cyril Ramaphosa or Steenhuisen. Those are not the people I want in power. There's a particular person I want because I feel like they resonate with me.
Coin toss, in deciding which kind of governance do you go for?
Yeah. I think that there's pros and cons to both, because in terms of the party choosing, I think there's that sort of legitimacy and that experience. But as Denga said, when it comes to the individual, I think that would definitely promote more public participation, because not a lot of people understand politics or are invested in politics, so that type of interest and public participation would be really cool.
But what are some of the characteristics then that young people are looking to when looking for a leader? Because if you are to choose your own president, what is it that you would look at, character-wise, ethics-wise, and who are the leaders amongst the leaders that we have that you as young people actually resonate with and gravitate to, and why?
Yeah. I feel like when it comes to what we're looking for when it comes to a leader, we are just simply looking for someone who calls a spade a spade. Don't sugarcoat anything. Don't say load shedding is ending, we are near, when it's not. Just say we have this crisis and it doesn't look good for us. And someone who's just going to encourage us as South African citizens to actually participate in decision makings when it comes to government and issues that relate to service delivery and all that. And when it comes to leaders at the moment who I feel like I might resonate with.
Okay, let's look at some of the stats and the poll data here from ARC data. 66% of supporters are most confident in Cyril Ramaphosa. Steenhuisen, 58%. Julius Malema, 52%. Thabo Mbeki makes the list too, tops overall with all voters. So 66% of the supporters are still confident in Cyril Ramaphosa. Do you share those sentiments? Gabrielle?
Personally, no. Yeah. No.
Is there anyone that you gravitate towards as a young person?
On that list, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's one party in particular that I feel has potential.
And without obviously revealing, because your vote is your secret and it's your, you can decide whether you want to share that or not, why that specific party, what about them caught your attention and made you think that maybe this is the right way to go?
I feel like it's just time for change. I mean, the ANC has been in power for so long, so it would be interesting to see how these other parties deliver on what they say. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I would vote for a different party, because I want to see change, and we're not going to see that change if we keep repeating and voting for the same party.
Every 5 years, that's how long you've got with your decision, and he's already obviously started his show successfully. So the Dan Quarter show, 9 o'clock Mondays and Tuesdays, and one of the things he harps on quite a lot is you need to understand that this is a vote that you're going to have to either celebrate or regret for 5 years. When you step out of that booth, having cast your vote 3 times, you need to be confident that you've made the right choice, because you only have another 5 years to go forward. So when you step in there and you make that decision, are you willing to stick with that decision? Do you feel that this is somebody that I can trust? They may not do everything that I want, right? Because these things take time, but they will, I believe that they have what it takes to implement, because that's been the problem in South Africa. Policies, we've got a lot of those. We've got a Bible of policies, and we've literally got a kiddies book of implementation results, So when you walk into that booth on the 29th and you've decided this is who I'm going for, are you prepared to either regret it or celebrate it? And that is actually a really good question, because that speaks to what a lot of, not even just youth, people in their 40s are thinking, what's the point, And that's a good question to ask yourself. Let's say on the 28th, right? Am I going? How often do you guys actually even ask yourselves that question?
I mean, it's been on my mind for the longest of time, because now looking into all political parties, I feel like I haven't found one that I resonate with. I haven't found one where I feel like their manifestos are very realistic and speak to me as Denga.
Can I be honest with you? Mm-hmm. I didn't vote 5 years ago. I didn't vote 5 years ago. Well, firstly, I was going through a lot in my life. I was unemployed, and I felt like I really want to sleep in and just deal with my problems. So I didn't go. I'm not even going to lie, but I didn't vote 5 years ago, and honestly, a very small part of me regretted it. I didn't look at it. I looked at it from a point of, what's my one vote going to do, right? It's taken me 5 years to realize that my one vote could decide whether or not I have Musi Maimane in power, or Songezo Zibi in power, or Bongani Baloyi in power, or that I get the ANC out of power, or that I don't even have the DA matter in power. So that one vote of 60 million people potentially, well, it's not really 60 million people because there's babies as well, but that one vote of the many millions could make a difference, not even maybe on a national level, but on a provincial level. Because again, yes, I've got somebody I don't want nationally, but I might make a difference in getting the person that I want provincially. Is that another thing you guys are considering, that it's not just a national election? You get to decide if you get a Solim Simang or a Panyazeli Sufi, or whoever the Action SA premier candidate who got kidnapped is. Do you guys pay attention to that as well?
We actually do, because this other day, I think it was sometime last year, where I was having a conversation with a couple of my mates, and one of the people just said, guys, what if we just change parties every 5 years? But then I feel like that's going to be disastrous, because it's going to cause our government won't be stable enough, because you can't give people 5 years and the next 5 years you put other people. And that also just shows that actually the youth does not really know who to vote for. I feel like the vote that we're going to, wherever we're going to put that X on, that those 3 ballot papers on the 29th of May is just risk-taking at this point.
But to that point, you had Barack Obama until 2016, so that was 2012 to 2016. You had Donald Trump 2016 to 2020, and then you've had Joe Biden. 3 different governments, 3 different sets of decisions that have been made by 3 different faces. I mean, I'm not saying they've done the best of jobs, right? But why not put in different governments every 5 years? Because doesn't it give them pressure to perform in those 5 years?
I mean, it does, but also I feel like it might also affect us as people. Because let's say the EFF wins this year's one. Well, let's say EFF is giving the unemployed people, let's say 8,000 a month. Then in the next 5 years, ANC comes back and they're like, no, we're taking you back to 350. It's going to cause an upset within.
Yeah. I want to touch on the point that you made, Morena, 5 years ago. You admitted now that you didn't vote because you just didn't believe that your one vote would make a difference. Is that still the same sentiment now amongst young people? When you're sitting in your groups with your friends, do they believe that their vote will make some sort of difference? Are they excited to vote?
Nobody, from my side, I don't think the youth is excited to vote. Because it's such a huge responsibility for them at this point, and there hasn't been enough done for them as the youth. Political parties have not done enough for the youth. They've actually failed the youth. So that's why I said going to that ballot, going to put that X on those 3 ballot papers, actually going to be a risk for us. We literally.
With regards to my friends, I think that we are excited to vote because I believe that in a democracy, every vote and every voice has the potential to bring about some sort of change. And I think that understanding is like fundamental when it comes to voting. Just having an understanding that your vote matters, your vote counts, it's not just forgotten about.
I think it's so interesting, Morena, to see the 2 opposite spectrums here between Denga and Gabrielle and their thinking and what is happening within their friendship circles. Denga, you seem very separated from the concept of voting. What could a political party implement? What are those key factors, those key issues that you've been failed on, that if someone comes and steps up and starts implementing, would change your mind?
I feel like South Africa has the capability to actually create more jobs for the youth, just create more opportunities for the youth, and not just small jobs, but big jobs for the youth, where you get, let's say a 21-year-old does not have to have experience, in a lot of experience, or that 2 years experience that a top position actually requires in South Africa to actually make change within an organization. So we actually need someone to come into power and change that concept of having 2 or 6 months experience to actually consume a higher position.
Is that something that you personally have struggled with in the past?
Honestly, so far I haven't struggled with it, but it's what I've noticed happening to the youth. A lot of people have came out and said, this is what's happening. I have the qualification, I have the masters, but I still can't take up a higher position because of that. And also, just improve the service delivery. Don't just do it in provinces where it's Gauteng. Yes, people will cause havoc if we don't do it. Go to provinces like Limpopo, Venda. Implement something that will improve better service for them, make life a bit simple for them. Don't just go to Cape Town, Joburg, because that's where tourists come and that's where people will cause an uproar. Go back to those communities and implement new stuff for them.
When you started voting, Gabrielle, before we come back to you, when you started voting, when you were afforded the opportunity to go to the polls, what is that defining moment? What was that said to you, this I have to do this?
I think for me, I grew up in a family where voting was prioritized. So as a family, we registered together, we went to vote together. It was a thing that we did together every 5 years, and it became a habit. Now as an adult, I obviously have that experience, but now I think more freely. I'm more independent in my decision making. So I think how you are raised plays a huge role in your view of the world, in your view of voting and casting your vote. But it's important to know that not everyone is raised the same. So we all have different experiences. But for me personally, it was just always prioritized. But not everyone grows up that way.
You guys are in the eNCA newsroom. You're exposed to everything about the eNCA newsroom, just the functionalities of eNCA as a channel and an organization, when you are consuming all of that information, you know, that the Gareth and Tummies give you, the Francis Herds and Tumelos give you, the election bus tour, you know, and just hearing everybody that our senior reporters and the likes are talking to, do you think we're ready for these elections? Like, I'm talking from a security point of view, free and fair elections, you know, the repercussions of them, the consequences, be it positive or negative, should parties that are expecting to win don't, or those that don't think they'd win outright probably do, or if we find ourselves in a coalition government, do you think a lot has been considered about South Africa and the dynamics and, you know, the look of it post 29 May? Are we ready? If you're looking at it from a newsroom point of view and the information that you've consumed, you know, and I suppose when you're out in the streets and you're out with your friends, but when you're consuming all of this election information, because we are in overdrive with this, right? Yeah. Do you see this country ready?
I feel like from an eNCA point of view, we've done a lot to actually equip South Africans for the elections. We've had different political parties going onto the bus. We've had different political party members actually coming to studio, where we had our anchors actually questioning their manifestos, our reporters actually going to their manifesto launches and asking them what happened to this promise that happened in 2019. Why is it still back? It means that you haven't actually fulfilled it. I feel like eNCA would be or is actually the go-to channel for this elections, because the team has really been doing a lot.
Do you think the country itself, the IEC, political parties, the ordinary South African, are they ready for what's going to happen on the 29th of May?
This year's one is a bit tricky. I think this year's one it's either going to be a surprise for those political parties. It's also going to be, I don't know, maybe a ring bell for them, come back to earth. Yeah. This didn't happen. What are you going to do for the next election? I feel like it's also going to be a wake-up call for so many political parties in our country. So as to whether they've done enough to actually equip South Africans, I'm not too sure about that, but I do know that the eNCA actually, we did so much to actually equip South Africans.
Yeah, well, we wait and see, right?
Are we ready?
So in terms of eNCA, I think that we as a channel have really put in a lot of hard work in terms of raising awareness about voting and giving different communities and different provinces, even the smaller provinces, an opportunity to speak about what it is they want to see, about whether it's the poor service delivery and, you know, any challenges and solutions that they want to see. So I think as a channel, I mean, Dan and all the other news anchors have been to town halls and, you know, had these debates with young people, older people, and it's different to see all the different views. And I think, like, as a channel, we've definitely provided this platform and opportunity for citizens to understand about voting, and there's a lot to think about.
There is.
So, yeah.
Well, I think it's been so refreshing to chat to some young people. Yeah. Gabrielle and Denga, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing a little bit on your own personal journeys. We really do appreciate it.
I do hope that on the 28th of May, the night before, you are just like, okay, I'm going.
I'm definitely going,
okay.
Actually.
All right.
Be going, but then I'll just see which one.
Look, man, any, mini, miny, mo, you know.
Just maybe, I'll just see which one maybe has just that little.
You've got some time to think it through. Sit down and think, think properly. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure, guys. This has been episode 2 of X Marks the Spot, an eNCA podcast. We're chatting all things elections 2024. If you've missed episode 1, go back to YouTube and check it out.